on the physiological endurance of the stone folk and their kin. An investigation into the life-sustaining properties of mineral-rich environments and subterranean ecology. In the known lands of Yyth, several sentient races, dwarves, dragons, gnomes, giants, halflings, trolls and ogres, exhibit significantly longer lifespans, heightened resilience to disease, and greater physical durability than baseline humans. This paper examines the prevailing theories behind such traits, drawing upon geological, nutritional, and arcano-biological evidence. In particular, it explores the interrelationship between subterranean habitation, mineral-rich environments, and the unique biological adaptations of these species. 1. Introduction. Close to the stone folk. The phrase "close to the stone folk" is an old human expression used to describe those whose bodies and souls seem bound to the earth itself. The stone folk proper are the dwarves, miners, masons, and deep delvers, whose lineage stretches into the dark beneath mountains. But, by extension, the term also embraces dragons, despite their often skyward natures, gnomes, giants, halflings, trolls, and ogres. These races, while diverse in form and culture, share notable traits. Lifespans many times longer than that of humans. Robust immune systems, with low incidence of plague or wasting disease. Resistance to environmental extremes of temperature, pressure, and toxin exposure. Exceptional recovery rates from wounds, fractures, and fatigue. While magic is often credited with these advantages, the evidence suggests their resilience is rooted not solely in enchantment, but in environmental adaptation and dietary integration with the mineral and geothermal resources of their native lands. 2. Geographical factors and leyline influence. 2.1 Mineral-rich habitats. All races discussed herein inhabit, or have historically inhabited, regions dense with high-value mineral deposits, gold, iron, copper, zinc, calcium-rich strata, and in some cases, veins of uranium-bearing stone. Long-term residence in such environments has been linked to subtle physiological changes, possibly due to micromineral ingestion via water and food sources, as well as constant dermal and respiratory exposure to airborne particulates. 2.2 Ley lines and etheric resonance ley lines, streams of concentrated magical energy flowing through the land, often intersect with mineral-rich regions. Living atop or within these conduits may enhance cell regeneration rates and bolster resistance to aging. Dragons in particular are believed to rue scent over leyline nodes deliberately, drawing ambient, arcane current into their bodies in much the same way as they bask in sunlight for warmth. 3. Hibernation as a longevity mechanism. Long hibernation cycles are documented among dwarves, gnomes, trolls, and ogres. Unlike the seasonal sleep of certain animals, these hibernations, often called deep ground periods, can last years or even decades. Mechanism: reduced metabolic rate, core body temperature drops, breathing slows to near imperceptibility, and caloric consumption is minimal. Cell preservation: in hibernation, cellular repair outpaces cellular decay, effectively halting biological aging. Memory retention: in dwarves and gnomes, hibernation does not erode cognitive function. Upon waking, they resume work or conversation, as if no time has passed. Halflings are an outlier here, while often seen as surface dwellers. In times of famine or societal danger they, too, will go deep ground, sealing their burrow homes and living in slow metabolic states for months at a time. 4. Mineral-specific adaptations. 4.1 Gold and copper. High concentrations of gold and copper in the bloodstreams of dwarves and dragons have been recorded in several anatomical studies, the most complete from post-mortem examinations of battlefield casualties. These metals may act as natural antimicrobial agents, lowering infection rates and increasing wound survival. 4.2 Iron proximity. Giants, trolls, and ogres often inhabit regions with heavy iron deposits. Iron saturation, both dietary and environmental, strengthens their skeletal systems, producing denser bone mass and greater muscle anchoring. Troll regeneration, in particular, may be tied to this surplus of bioavailable iron. 4.3. Calcium and stone-based diets. Many subterranean dwellers ingest small quantities of stone dust inadvertently in their food and drink, a side effect of underground milling and storage. This supplemental calcium reinforces bone density to levels far beyond human averages, allowing dwarves to carry enormous loads without structural injury. 4.4. Zinc and immune strength. Zinc-rich environments, especially in warm caverns with constant water seepage, are correlated with reduced illness rates among gnomes and halflings. Zinc contributes to rapid healing and heightened disease resistance, likely explaining the rarity of serious contagion outbreaks in these populations. 4.5. Uranium and radiation. Exposure. Dragons and certain troll breeds live near uranium deposits, and yet show no sign of radiation sickness. Instead, they appear to harness low-level radiation as an energy source, either through unique organ structures or symbiotic internal flora, capable of converting it into usable metabolic energy. 5. Geothermal and hydrological effects. 5.1. Steam vents and hot springs. Proximity to geothermal features provides consistent warmth, reducing caloric requirements and easing joint strain. The mineral-saturated waters of hot springs act as both tonic and cleanser, flushing toxins through heavy sweating and dermal absorption of trace elements. 2. Pressure conditioning. Living at depth exposes the body to higher atmospheric pressures, which may stimulate cardiovascular efficiency and respiratory adaptation. In dwarves and ogres, lung capacity is markedly greater than in humans of similar body mass. 6. Dietary contributions. 6.1. Mushrooms and lichen fungi and lichens form the backbone of subterranean diets. Many species contain potent antioxidants, anti-inflammatory compounds, and psychoactive alkaloids, which may regulate stress response and enhance mental acuity. 6.2. Bioluminescent algae. Consumed in small amounts, these algae provide trace phosphorus and sulfur, contributing to nerve function and possibly aiding night vision. In troll folklore, such algae are also said to feed the fire in the blood. 6.3. Invertebrate protein sources. Cave crabs, deep locusts, and subterranean eels, rich in mineral content, are staples in many deep-dwelling cultures. These protein sources deliver concentrated nutrition with minimal fat, aiding endurance without excessive weight gain. 7. Species-specific physiological notes. 7.1. Dwarves. Bone density, 1.6 times human average. Hemoglobin adapted for oxygen retention in low ventilation mines. Immunity to several fungal spores lethal to humans. Natural resistance to temperature extremes, due to subdermal fat marrow blend layer. 7.2. Dragon's organs, capable of storing elemental charge, lightning, flame, frost. Scale structure contains layered silica, functioning like natural armor. Ability to metabolize radioactive minerals without harm. Lifespans exceeding a millennium, possibly tied to ley line roosting. 7.3. Gnomes, high tolerance for trace metals in diet. Neural mapping adapted for spatial navigation in labyrinthine tunnels. Deep ground hibernation, lasting up to 5 years without muscle atrophy. 7.4. Giants, skeletal microstructure, reinforced by strontium deposits from diet. Slow metabolism and efficient cardiovascular systems, minimizing aging effects. 7.5. Halflings. Adaptive hibernation only in crisis conditions. Exceptional digestive efficiency, extracting maximum nutrition from minimal resources. Low stress physiology reduces strain-related disease. 7.6. Trolls regenerative factor, possibly linked to iron-rich diet and geothermal habitat. Skin excretes mineral oils that prevent desiccation and infection. 7.7. Ogres' dense musculature, with collagen structures adapted for blunt force absorption. Immunity to most bacterial infections, due to copper-enriched bloodstream. 8. The The role of magic and culture. Though much of this analysis centers on geology and biology, cultural practices also reinforce longevity. Ritual fasting, seasonal feasts, and mineral baths are as much preventative health measures as they are traditions. Even without overt enchantment, the interplay of environment, diet, and cultural discipline creates a feedback loop of resilience. 9. Conclusion. To be close to the stone folk is not merely to live underground or near the mountains, it is to draw life from the earth's very bones. These races endure because the land itself endures, feeding them in ways most humans never perceive. Whether through gold in the blood, lightning in the heart, or the slow pulse of a ley line beneath the feet, their bodies are shaped by the deep places, and as long as those places remain, so too will they. On the physiology of the veil-touched peoples. Abstract. The Fae, Elves, Norn, and Merkind represent a distinct evolutionary branch of sentient life, characterized by exceptional agility, elongated lifespans, and heightened sensory acuity. Unlike the stone folk, whose endurance is bound to mineral-rich depths, these veil-touched races draw their vitality from continuous proximity to ley lines and the ethereal borderland known as the veil. This report examines their biological peculiarities, temporal adaptations, and the ways in which their environments shape magical and artisanal mastery. 1. Introduction. Close to the veil. The veil is not a place in the mortal sense, it is a condition of existence. It lies between the prime material and the realms of dream, death, and raw magic. Races living close to it are touched by its influence. They perceive time differently, move with supernatural grace, and weave magic into craft as naturally as humans draw breath. The most prominent veil-touched races are Fae, native denizens of the veil, masters of glamour and natural magic. Elves, long-lived prime material dwellers with ancestral ties to the Fae. Norn, tall, lithe nocturnals, with innate necromantic, abjuring, and divining arts. Merkind, aquatic beings of deep breath, magic-rich song, and oceanic ley lines. All share structural similarities, lighter skeletal systems, often with hollow or semi-hollow bones, enhanced neural reflexes, and subtle enchantment woven into flesh and mind by diet and habitat. 2. Temporal perception and reflexive agility. 2.1 time dilation in the veil proximity. In regions saturated with ley line energy, local space-time flow is subtly altered. The effect is most pronounced within a quarter mile of a ley line nexus, where measured time for veil-touched individuals can slow to roughly 0.6% to 0.8%. The speed experienced by an unadapted human. This does not change the objective world's pace, but alters perception and reaction latency. 2.2. Combat and craft advantages. Dodging and rapid attack. Faster neural conduction allows the body to begin evasive action before a human opponent has consciously processed a threat. Masterwork crafting. Temporal dilation affords veil-touched artisans a subjective sense of more time to perform intricate work. 3. Skeletal and muscular adaptations. 3.1. Hollow and semi-hollow bones similar to avian structures. These bones reduce body weight while maintaining tensile strength through internal strut-like trabeculae. The result? Higher jump height, less mass to propel, enhanced agility, quick pivots, and aerial maneuverability. Trade-off: slightly lower tolerance to blunt trauma compared to stonefolk. 3.2 Muscular composition. High proportion of fast-twitch muscle fibers allows for explosive movement, bursts, paired with finely tuned slow-twitch fibers that provide exceptional control for precision work. 4. Dietary influence. Food of the ley lines. 4.1 Magical agriculture. Veil-touched societies often cultivate crops directly atop ley lines. This imprints food with subtle etheric charge, detectable through thaumaturgic assay. Regular ingestion strengthens magical aptitude and bodily responsiveness. 4.2 Foraged components. Moon petal blossoms promote night vision acuity. Silverroot tubers improve nerve conduction velocity. Lei fruit, known to extend lifespan by decades, possibly centuries. Oceanic Yyth 3, oceanic equivalents merkind seaweeds and kelp colonies growing. Over ley-line-fed thermal vents are rich in biocrystals that store arcane energy. Consumed regularly, these may explain the merkind's soul magic affinity. 5. Race-specific physiology. 5.1. Fey innate magic born with a reservoir of glamour energy, can manipulate light, sound and scent at will. Lifespan, functionally ageless in the veil, but mortalized if exiled for centuries. Sensory field, capable of detecting disturbances in magical currents akin to a sixth sense. 5.2 Elves' ancestry. Prime material dwellers descended from ancient Fey settlers. Bone density, light, but reinforced by magical lamination in growth. Crafting excellence, neurotemporal advantage allows them to master complex enchantment-laced crafts. 5.3 Norn stature, average height 7 feet 2 inches, with proportionally longer limbs for reach and leverage. Magic affinity, necromantic, abjuration, and divination magic are instinctive rather than learned. Nocturnal vision, retinal structure adapted to moonlight, disadvantage in direct sunlight without shade. 5.4 Merkin respiration, can hold breath for up to 4 hours due to myoglobin-saturated muscles. Magic in song, vocal folds tuned for harmonic resonance with soul magic frequencies. Agility in water, semi-hollow bones, and flexible rib structures enable acrobatic maneuvering underwater. 6. Neurological enhancements. 6.1 Reflex, arc modifications. Veil-touched nervous systems possess redundant synaptic relays, allowing both conscious and instinctual responses to be triggered near simultaneously. 6.2 Magical neuroplasticity. Continuous low-level magic exposure stimulates brain adaptability, enabling faster skill acquisition and multi-discipline proficiency. 7. Cultural reinforcement of physiology. Beyond biology, cultural practices reinforce these traits. Dance and ritual combat maintains agility and spatial awareness. Song and enchantment weaving exercises fine motor control and magical precision. Nighttime activity cycles. Norn, some elves, synchronizes body rhythms with cooler, slower-flowing nocturnal magic. 8. Lifespan and mortality. Fey may be considered biologically immortal within the Veil. Elves and Norn average 600 to 800 years, Merkind 400 to 500 years. Despite their longevity, all Veil-touched share a vulnerability, disconnection from leyline. Sustenance leads to gradual deterioration in both agility and magical potency. 9. Conclusion. The Veil-touched stand apart from stonefolk, not because they are stronger or more enduring, in the brute sense, but because they live in a constant state of magically heightened motion. They are dancers in slow time, artisans whose fingers move with the precision of fate itself, and warriors who can see a strike before it lands. Their bodies are as much attuned instruments as they are vessels of flesh, and their song is the rhythm of the ley lines. Dragons, an analytical study of the draconic beings of Yyth, by Keeper Ilara of the Arcanum Sanctum. Introduction. Few creatures in Yyth inspire as much awe and dread as the draconic beings, known to scholars as the Serpentis crystallis. While legends depict them as mere beasts of flame and fury, empirical study reveals a complex interplay of biology, magic, and psychic phenomena underlying their existence. This study presents an in-depth examination of their physiology, magical organs, and unique combat adaptations, with special attention to the infamous belly crystal, the navel of Soulbind. 1. Morphological overview. Serpentis crystallis exhibit a quadrupedal frame, with a robust barrel-shaped thorax housing an extraordinary cardiovascular system composed of a triple-chambered heart. The third chamber functions as a specialized blood magic organ, facilitating arcane energy circulation, concurrent with physical vitality. Their integument is composed of keratinous scales fused with silica microstructures, resulting in a matte, stone-like dermis resistant to mundane damage and capable of refracting magical energies. Beneath lies a collagenous mesh embedded with microcrystals, effectively dampening and dispersing incoming spell energies. The cranial structure is elongated and triangular, designed for predatory precision. Noteworthy are the hollow, quartz-reinforced horns, serving dual roles as both visual intimidation and psychic energy amplifiers. 2. Magical and psychic physiology. Central to their mystical prowess is the vocal apparatus, equipped with a subharmonic resonator organ, allowing the emission of layered vocalizations. These span audible speech, psychic impressions, and raw magical resonance, often simultaneously, rendering their communications multidimensional and partly indecipherable to non-draconic intelligences. Of particular interest is the psionic node, a concentrated neural cluster near the base of the skull. This organ modulates psychic emissions used in offensive and defensive maneuvers, including inducing fear, disorientation, and paralysis in foes. 3. The navel of soulbind, belly crystal. At the core of draconic vitality lies the hexagonal belly crystal, fused integrally with the solar plexus neural bundle. This crystalline organ functions as a soul anchor, sustaining consciousness and magical essence throughout the dragon's lifespan. The crystal's unique property is its role in post-mortem soul transference. A mortal wound delivered directly to this organ precipitates immediate soul migration into the striking weapon, permanently binding the dragon's essence to that object. This phenomenon underpins many local myths of cursed or sentient weapons of draconic origin. The belly area is heavily armored with dense scales and is instinctively protected during combat. 4. Breath attack, physiology. Unlike conventional depictions of draconic fire, breath, serpentis, crystallis expel a cone of superheated crystalline dust, amalgamated with psychic shock waves. This breath weapon achieves both physical and magical disruption. The crystalline particulates physically abrade and sever tissue, while the accompanying psychic pulses interfere with magical focus and neural function of victims, making it a weapon of both cutting and disabling utility. The dual nature of this attack necessitates specialized respiratory and glandular structures capable of generating, storing, and projecting this complex mixture. 5. Behavioral and social implications. The physical and psychic adaptations of Serpentis crystallis contribute to their fearsome reputation. Their complex communication modes foster intricate social networks maintained via psychic whispers, despite a generally solitary lifestyle. The presence of the belly crystal also influences cultural practices, rituals surrounding soul transference, and the crafting of soul-bound artifacts are closely guarded secrets among the learned. Conclusion. The Serpentis crystallis represent a pinnacle of biomagical evolution, seamlessly integrating physical toughness, psychic warfare, and arcane biology. Their unique belly crystal organ not only anchors their soul, but extends their influence beyond death, conferring a legacy that blurs the boundaries between life, magic, and artifact. Further study is warranted, particularly into the processes governing soul transference and the long-term effects of psychic breath exposure on both victims and the dragons themselves. On the naming conventions of the draconic lineages, Sil and Yyth by Keeper Elara of the Arcanum Sanctum. Introduction. Among the Serpentis crystallis, names are far more than mere identifiers. They carry within them encoded histories, lineages, and even moral tendencies. This chapter explores the two principal dynastic bloodlines, Sil and Yyth, and the linguistic tradition by which these ancient creatures mark age, alignment, and heritage through their given names. 1. The dual lineages, Sil and Yyth. Draconic society recognizes two primary ancestral lines. Sil lineage, traditionally associated with passive, wise, and often benevolent dragons. They favor harmony, guardianship, and the preservation of balance. Sil dragons tend to be mentors, keepers of law, or defenders of sacred sites. Yyth lineage, known for their fierce, unpredictable, and often chaotic nature. Gyr dragons are warriors, conquerors, and agents of change, embracing destruction as a path to renewal. This duality echoes through their culture and psyche, often coloring the temperament and destiny of each dragon born into these lines. 2. Linguistic structure of dragon names. Dragon names are compound and multisyllabic, functioning both as personal identifiers and genealogical records. The linguistic formula is as follows. Base syllables. Each generation adds one or more syllables at the beginning of the name. Compound surname, a meaningful phrase or descriptor, often describing a feat, trait, or family honor. Lineage suffix. Every dragon's name ends with either sil or gyr, marking their ancestral bloodline. Example, Varithumalor sil, a sil dragon of considerable age. Fewer syllables, whose family name, Umalor, may translate to keeper of the twilight flame. Zerin Thalkor Gyr, a younger Gyr dragon with a compound surname Thalkor implying Stormbreaker. 3. Generational indicators. The syllabic count. Older dragons have shorter names, often with fewer syllables. This indicates both venerability and a distillation of lineage prestige. Fewer syllables signify a name passed down and respected through the ages. Younger dragons bear longer, more complex names, reflecting the accretion of history, achievements, and familial branches. As dragons age, these names often simplify, dropping redundant syllables to honor tradition and brevity. This pattern functions like a verbal family tree, allowing listeners to infer age and lineage status upon first hearing a dragon's full name. 4. Cultural significance and social usage. Respectful address. When addressing an elder or a particularly powerful dragon, one uses the full name including the compound surname and lineage suffix, a mark of deference. In formal use, among kin or close associates, dragons often shorten names to a chosen call syllable, usually the first or second syllable. Lineage pride. The sil and gyr suffixes are sources of pride and rivalry, with each lineage's members often emphasizing their suffix in formal settings to assert heritage. 5. Implications for interlineage relations. The names also serve as social markers. Members of the sil lineage tend to seek alliances and peace with other races, and among themselves, often mediating conflicts. The gyr lineage's names carry a warning. Dragons bearing the gyr suffix are often viewed with suspicion, their names invoked in stories as harbingers of upheaval. Conclusion. The Serpentis Crystallis naming system embodies their complex societal values and ancient history. Through the structure of their names, dragons carry forward the legacy of their lineage. A living tapestry woven into every syllable and uttered with every roar.